So we got Farah from Fading Nemesis with us today, going to explore a lot of stuff about your background and, of course, your new releases that you have going on. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, of course, you have a very interesting background. You're originally from Pakistan, is that right?
I am. I was born there, and my family relocated to Dallas, Texas, of all places, from Rawalpindi, Pakistan.
That's awesome. And your father was an accomplished sitar player. Now, did what he was doing influence your own musical taste directly, or did you eventually venture off into your own interests?
Jake, when you grow up with music in your home, and your parents, obviously, as much as we'd like to think that our parents don't influence us as we're getting older, our existence, our reality, the environment in which we grow up has so much to do with how we are developing. And my dad being such an incredible sitar player, and us having my parents would host music parties probably once a month with greats like Ravi Shankar and uh, people coming to our home. And that definitely impacted everything that I do musically today. The Eastern flavor, the melodic notes, the scales, the whole musical network in the Eastern classical world is completely different than the Western music world as it comes to theory alone. So yeah, definitely influenced me and made me who I am today musically.
It's awesome. And you can't forget Pakistani pop music too. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, growing, bumping up in the 90s, with Vital
Absolutely.
Signs, with Junoon, with
Absolutely.
Strings, that was,
Absolutely.
you were influenced by that music too?
Not so much that. I think because I had cousins living in the UK, I had cousins living in Canada.
All right,
They
so it was
kept
all
me
spread
complete,
out, right?
yeah, and they kept me completely in tune with what was happening in the Western world, rock and roll world. So I was being influenced on both ends, East and West crashing in my mind. And so I kind of was a very diverse music listener. My influences they're a wide range of musicians in genres and styles. So yeah.
That's pretty cool. So it's like, all the way around, and of course, like you definitely in your music that you have now, you ventured into like metal, and I guess all the boxes of metal, like new metal, and just heavier music in
Yeah.
general. What were some of those
Well, my
bands
cousins
that
always sent me really
influenced you?
heavy music. They sent me Judas Priest, Iron Maiden. I grew up, I grew up listening to really heavy. I mean, all the whole British underground explosion that happened, Sex Pistols, Susie and the Banshees. I mean, all of when I was little, that's what was going through my ears. And so I think the heavy part of the musical sound is very much integrated into my younger days. So
hmm
that's exactly where that's coming from. I'm reverting back to the things I loved growing up. So,
Yeah, and it's really interesting because when you were 10 years old, I mean, that's when you moved to the States, right? And
yes.
what stood out? What were the contrasts between Pakistan and the United States that you really took in?
I think it wasn't so much on a we were already used to it because the
Yeah.
world was a lot smaller then than people realized.
hmm
We had all the shows that came out here on television. They came out there. Our music, our style, fashion went to Pakistan before it came to America from London and Milan, and
hmm
so we were already very westernized. I went to English medium schools, but the thing that stuck out the most was the way society functions. Our cultures, as you know, even the European cultures are this way. Whether it's Italians, whether it's a warmer culture. It's a community-based culture. Families live together. There's a sense of uh, integration of
I see.
humans that's different than I found here. I think the biggest shock for me was how isolated suburbia was. I think that was the biggest thing that hit me when I first moved here and throughout my high school years.
And you think when you think about it, um, you talk about other countries in general being more community oriented. When you think about, especially America, and like excessively, exceedingly nowadays, it's all individualistic. It's all like
Yes.
I and me instead of we.
Yes. Yes. And I think in the name of freedom, we talk about independence, but I think it's really interdependence that's key.
Hmm.
It's not codependence that we have. I mean, my culture tends to, fall towards codependence, whereas a lot,
Hmm.
Americans tend to be independent. I think the thing that's really key is interdependence and finding
Hmm.
that balance between the two, and that the good of the whole is really, really crucial to consider when you are living your life.
Hmm.
You
And you've so you definitely had all these connections, all these influences around you, and again, at a very young age, you really came into your own.
Yes.
You started singing in youth rallies and festivals. So, like, did going to those events and participating in them, did that help solidify your drive as a singer? Did that tell you, like, I can do this?
At age 11, that's when I knew I could do this. I had been singing for a while. I mean, anytime there were music parties at home, they would have me sing at these events. And so, but coming to the States and singing, my first time to sing publicly was at age 11 on Easter Sunday in a mega church in Dallas, Texas. And I was 11, I was a kid. And I remember when I decided what I was going to sing, I sang Amazing Grace a cappella. So I remember closing my eyes. I was scared. I mean, I had just moved from Pakistan to the States, and here, there's over 8,000
Yeah.
people in the congregation. And when I opened my eyes after I finished, there was a standing ovation. And I didn't know if it was just them praising the Lord or if it was me. And at that moment, I realized I was not only a singer, I was also an influencer. And so that's when it became a very solid, solid stance for me. Whether it was I was singing or speaking or I was, you know, um, stylistically in high school, I was the trendsetter. I just didn't care what people thought, in a sense that I had my individual personality that I just wasn't afraid to let it shine, let it come out and let it just be me.
But either way, it's like it was no longer a pat on the back, like, hey, you're doing
Yes.
good, kid, kind of, you
Yes.
know.
It became my own. Yeah.
Yeah, and it became like a guaranteed, like, I can and I will impact
Yes.
people. I'll use my
Absolutely.
voice as a tool. This isn't
Absolutely.
just like some instance where I'm singing for friends and then they look at me with kind of praise, but it's kind of indifferent and anything,
Yes.
this was
Yes.
like your shining moment, which is
Yes.
awesome.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, that's right.
So a tragic circumstance, as I understand, led
Mm.
you back to the United States. And
Yes.
how did that affect you as far as your musical path?
You know, Jake, when I was in the UK, it was incredible because London has, as you know, throughout the history of music in London, in the UK, really, Liverpool, Manchester, so many amazing bands have come out of the UK and movements have come out of the UK.
Of
And
course.
living there, I think I gained a freedom that I had kind of lost being in the States, because everything is so recited. Or if you don't fit into this genre, or if you don't do it this way, there's a sense of limitation. Whereas in the UK, you could come out with a song or you come out with a way of doing things musically, and it's accepted because it's innovation and it's good. So I think my when the tragedy happened, it was something of a frightening thing because we had to move back to the States. My son's dad had, Rod, he had an accident and became a quadriplegic. And so
Man.
had to come back to the States. And at that time, I thought, you know what, I may never do music again. And I'm fine with that. I was good with it because for some reason, my expression of everything I do, it's not just limited by song. I can express myself whether I'm cooking or whether, I mean, I have clothing lines that I've designed, which will come out eventually. written 2 books. So it wasn't a fear for me that music would never come out. Well, I came to the States and I decided I personally was going to move to Arizona. I needed the heat. I needed the Sonoran Desert because the pain was so huge. I thought I needed to put it inside of an environment that was heated up and that was brutal. And so moving to the Sonoran Desert, it's hot. It gets hot out here in Arizona. And it was unbelievable. The heat, the environment, the cactus, the snakes, the scorpions, the spiders. It was all, I mean, I would wander out into the wilderness and find myself feeling healed. And at that time, songs started showing up inside of me. So that's when I met Larry Elia, who's a producer here in town. And he and I told him, look, I think we need to write music together. And we did. That's what began the journey for Fading Nemesis.
Yeah, wow. I
Yeah.
mean, to go back a bit with your, tragedy that you experienced. I mean, I myself, I'm disabled myself. I'm not paralyzed, but I have cerebral palsy, and I can never imagine, like, despite my gripes, with America and healthcare and
Yeah.
everything, I can never imagine how it could be in any other country. Like
Yeah.
how people like me are treated or people like him are treated. It's a mixed bag, really. But you just gotta have to kind of have to roll with the punches.
Well, actually, Jake, the care that he received in the UK was phenomenal,
Oh wow.
phenomenal, beyond phenomenal. We would not have been able to receive the care that he received. We couldn't have afforded it here with insurance, games, and all of that stuff. We could not have even remotely been able to afford the incredible care he got. The spinal injury hospital he was admitted into, that he lived in for about 8 months, 9 months. It was incredible. The care was
Wow.
brilliant. Yeah. So we
You
coming back
telling
to,
me to move there?
well, I have to say, when you have, I mean, it was, again, the country is not set up for people with special needs, or we
Yeah,
could, I mean, with the
disabilities or
wheelchair,
anything.
because of the trains, because of the buses, the
Oh
roads are
yeah,
too
it
narrow, because
sucks.
it's,
It's
but
bullshit.
Europe is a walking culture. Europe is a moving culture. Everything is built close by. Things are old. Buildings are 1,000 years old. And,
Also,
you
they
know,
have these things called slow ways, right? Where you can actually appreciate the environment that you're in, even when you're walking or when you're
yeah,
wheeling.
yes,
So it's
exactly.
really cool.
I think it's actually they're stepping up with the times, but we were there and it was difficult for Rod. He
All
needed
right.
to come back home. So we came back home.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's cool though because in general you soldiered on, and so when you talk about the forming of Fading Nemesis with Jason Ryan, Kyle Christian, Chris Hazard. How did you guys get together, and what did you observe about your chemistry as you were kind of building that bond as a band?
Hmm. That's a great question, Jake. When Larry and I started writing the album, we had about 6 or 7 songs already written. And at that time, I had just met Jason, who is one of the most incredible songwriters and guitar players, and also is my husband now. Just incredible. I didn't know he was a guitar player when I first met him. And one day, a couple of weeks in, I heard him playing, and I thought, it is almost like he started Fading Nemesis. I am the founder of Fading Nemesis, but it almost felt like he understood Fading Nemesis so well that it could be completely his. So that's when I asked him, and he came on board as guitar player. And then Larry, and I finished the album.
Oh,
Then and we didn't have a drummer or bass player. We asked Ben of Nothing More. Do you know Ben Anderson, the drummer for Nothing More?
no,
He
but I'll
played
look
on
them out.
Okay. He played on the record. And then we thought, we need to get the rest of the band together.
Yeah,
So just soon thereafter, we started auditioning for for bass players and drummers. And we got Chris and Kyle. And, to be honest with you, it happened so fast, and they came on board, they're on board. But we're still trying to see the chemistry of where this is going, because at the end of the day, Fading Nemesis is not just a band. She's a brand,
hmm
and she's a movement. She's a force. And so I do talk about her in third person because she is another other side of me. It's a creative side of me that I took out and I put out into the world.
Yeah, it's
So
like you're referring to it as like almost like a country, like when they
yes,
say like she, it's a
yes.
whole entity.
It's a whole entity. And so therefore, I think we are still experimenting. We did our first shows with Peyton Parrish in August, and just to test out the album. The album's finished, and we thought, let's just see how the audience is going to respond to it. And it was phenomenal, Jake. We had the most incredible time. Now we're finished. The album is set to release in 2024, spring of 2024, and we're gearing up to tour the album after that, and hopefully hit all the festivals in the summer of 2024. And yeah, this is all in the early stages and it's moving quite fast, faster than we anticipated.
So, you mentioned a little bit about your your purpose for Fading Nemesis. In general, what does Fading Nemesis mean to you?
Fading Nemesis to me, what does she mean? The thing is, Fading Nemesis came to life because in my mind's eye, music is something that can influence anyone, anywhere, at any age in the world, anywhere in the world. It's a universal language. And with the condition that the world's in right now, I don't care whether you're talking economically, sociologically, emotionally, whatever, it's in a state of distress. We as technologically advanced as we are definitely disjointed as humanity, as a race. And so my hope with Fading Nemesis is that I'm able to wake people up, not only to themselves, but to the world around them, wake them up and allow them to see that we are part of a conglomerate called the human race. And internally, we can have the freedom we so long for in our souls, whatever that looks like for each person, to be content, to be free, to actually take the time to stop and breathe, really breathe. I mean, really breathe. So, what is she to me? She is an avenue, a force that I feel like has come to life that has the ability to change the spin of the planet.
The big thing I notice too is when you talk about the divide is, and I feel this too, and it's exhausting, but you know, men and women at odds with one another when we should be unified, joining up. We have unique qualities about
Yes,
us that
yes,
that we love and that we lost track of.
absolutely.
That we
Absolutely.
celebrate individually, and like what happened to that? What happened to the the unification? I think it's like exacerbated by the internet.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
Chronically online people, and all these things I think of as, social media. Its purpose is to be a tool for
Yes,
communication, but
yes,
it's a crutch
yes,
for over reliance on stimulation. And
yes,
what the
yes.
hell?
Yes, and it's wrong stimulation. Honestly, what it's done is it's caused humans to forget exactly who they are. I mean, we as
Yeah.
women, I think we are more lost than ever. The more we shout the through the megaphone, women's rights. I'm all for women's rights. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. I'm from Pakistan. I'm a very strong female lead in a
Hmm.
very male dominated industry,
Hmm.
rock and roll, metal, especially heavy.
Yeah.
Uh, but I am a proponent of the fact that we as women need to actually come back to ourselves to see who we are, our own strength, without comparative studies with others, without having to be told what a woman is.
Yeah.
I, Instinctively, as a woman, I was never and never had to be told what it is to be a woman.
Yeah.
But now the voices outside are so loud that I can't hear it inside of myself anymore. And I have to fight for that. And I
Hmm.
think you're right. The internet, social media, everything is convoluting. I mean, it's destroying the perception that men and women have of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my situation too, certain
Yeah.
disabilities are favored, with the whole autism and ADHD. But then
Yeah.
if you try to talk about, your experience as being born with
Yeah.
something and you weren't diagnosed like a day or two ago. You're
Yes.
shunned. You're just yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what I
Exactly.
mean? You're
Yes.
shunned. You're like
Yes.
your experiences are invalid. You poor invalid, go back to your corner. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what
Yes.
are we here
Exactly.
for?
What are we here for? That's exactly right. What are we here for? So that's the hope that Fading Nemesis begins to wake the human soul up.
And
And I'm starting small, but we're going to get there.
and you and I thought it was cool because in your early release, you had a cover of Tears for Fears, Shout, and then like a long time later, you actually do another cover of
Yeah.
Richmond, North of Richmond, and I found this cover to be exciting. And that's one point of it, but also like kind of like what the hell kind of led you to this cover? Because when that song came out, it was like, what the hell is this?
Well, here's the thing with me, Jake. One of the things that as you are already learning, is I'm hugely interested in the well-being of uh, the human plight and what we
Mm-hmm.
are leading ourselves into in the future. And I think just some months ago, I mean, that song came out. Oliver Anthony put that song out August 9th, I think.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
that long, and it blew up. I mean, and I didn't know about it, right? And I had, my parents calling me and saying, "Hey, have you heard of this new guy named Oliver Anthony?" And I checked him out, and I thought, "What is this? He's being interviewed by BBC. He's doing it's like a wildfire. That song started a wildfire of something, and what that is it became a voice, not just for an individual, but it became a political voice, which I don't think he ever wrote that song as a political, with a political
Yeah,
bent.
a song is a song
And
until,
I
I
don't
mean,
think
it's your
he,
own song until it has its audience and then they interpret it for themselves,
right.
right?
And I think it shocked him how fast this went, how big it went. So I thought, if if this is touching humanity, how would it be if I had written this song? How is this song? How can I make it my own? Because if millions and millions are feeling something with it, how would I write the song? What would the perspective be? And it came out that it would be the perspective of a mother, of a woman who has given away her husband to the country to fight somewhere overseas on their behalf. He's either died or he's still fighting, and she's at home not being taken care of by the government, not being taken care of. And I thought, that's what, if I was to write that song and if I wanted to be in the story of the song, that's what I would want it to be. And so that's where the song went and came out. And I thought, why not? Because Fading Nemesis is about reaching the masses, and I wanted to be part of the wildfire that was going on, that
Yeah.
is going on in the song.
Now going back to your uh, your album that you have kind of waiting in the wings, what can you tell me about the producers that you work with, and
Yeah.
similarly the bonds that you've solidified with them?
Yes. Larry Elia, I always say he's a producer, my producer of Mind's Eye Digital in here in Phoenix, Arizona. I always say to him, "You resurrected me. You reminded me again that I have a voice." Because I was willing to give up music altogether, in order, I mean, taking care of family, my husband who was quadriplegic, just taking care of him at that time, it took all of life out of me, but
Hmm.
not hope, right? And so I thought I was giving up music. Larry brought that back to life for me. And our chemistry in the studio is unbelievable. We fought when we did the EP. I think we did a 3-song EP in 2 weeks. We literally fought like a married couple, musically married couple. Larry and I did,
Hmm.
and we worked all of our kinks out, like our personality traits, our fieriness, or our passive aggressiveness, or our aggressiveness. I mean, it was all worked out, but it created such a rhythm for us. And so when we started working on the album, Jake, it was magic. Larry and I think the same way, but I also respect him so much that when he has ideas, I am so open to them, and vice versa. He never undermines me as a songwriter. So Larry and I will continue No matter which producers I work with, Larry will always be part of the original Fading Nemesis team. And then Dusty Bowles, who is a guitar player. He is at the present moment playing guitar for Peyton Parrish, but he has been in the music business for a long, long time. He started out as a drummer and then a guitar player, but he is a phenomenal producer, phenomenal songwriter. So we brought him on board to kind of put what I call the dusty gold dust on the songs. So this is an effort that's it's a team effort. You know, it's many people coming together to put something brilliant together, and that's what I love about my team right now. The producers coming in, they get along really well. There's no competition. There's no sense of, oh, well, my sound needs to be heard, or my sound needs to be, or my this has to be done. There's no my spaces. There are no egos coming in together, which is
Hmm.
brilliant. You know, because then we can get on with it, creating music, creating art, creating amazing things. You know.
Hmm. And you bring up a really good point of just resilience and endurance. So
Yes.
many times, I mean, I can tell you, being disabled and being in the relationships that I've had, as soon as your circumstances kind of overwhelm your partner, they they bow out after a while. And you mentioned something taking, you know, your husband's circumstances taking the life out of you, maybe emotionally, physically, but not losing that hope. And I
Yes.
think that's like the biggest thing when you're dealing with anybody, regardless of their circumstances. When they're a friend with a disability or an illness or anything, or if you're, you know, getting into a spat with one of your producers over this idea, you
Yes.
have to take a deep breath, level it out, remind yourself, hey, I love you. You're a human being and you're part of my life. You
Yeah.
know, that's what matters.
Well, I think we've lost that in
Mm-hmm.
societies today. At the moment it gets hard, you're given the freedom and the get out of jail free card. It's all over this. It's all over social media. There is no sense of commitment left anymore. There's no
Mm-hmm.
sense of I'm going to work this out. This is worth sticking it out for. And then if after a year of working it out or 2 years working it out, it doesn't work out, then we'll still remain friends and we'll just choose together to call it a day. You know, I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
no sense of actually
Yeah.
uh, human uh
You know,
what's the
bonds
word?
solidifying.
Yeah.
Like there's no like
Working something
strength in
out.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And it sucks, but it gives me hope to see you in that, in that fight or just in that um
Mission.
yeah, mission, that willingness to stick
Yeah.
together and say like, and
Yeah.
you recognize that your love is still undeniably there. It's not going to
They,
be clouded by
no.
bullshit.
Rod and I were already separated when the accident happened. We chose to
Right.
stay together for our son. But Rod's my family. Even though
Right.
our marriage didn't work, he's my family.
Right.
He's my fucking family. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't walk out on your family. And so yeah, I chose to take care of him. And
Yeah.
that's what we have lost in our societies. We just bail out. It doesn't suit our particular life and we can just walk out. And I think the
Yeah.
walking out and this, small, short attention span existence that we're all living in, it's the end of it'll be the end of humanity if we're not careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I tell you, artificial intelligence is going to have a heyday with us with that
Oh man. Yeah.
one.
But luckily we have people like you who want to
Thank you.
change that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And speaking of your album in a general context, I mean, you have your reimagined version of Richmond, north of Richmond. Do you see yourself? I mean, have you explored all these emotions on this album as much as you're allowed to
Oh,
talk
absolutely.
about with this album?
Absolutely. With the upcoming album, with our debut album, every song has um how do I say it? I've given birth to every one of them, right? They're my children, but they have their own personality, they have their own name, but they share the last name, and it's Fading Nemesis. It's me, you know? And so, yeah, every song has a very distinct journey and personality. And so I think my songwriting and record making is going to continue to be that, whether it's um, this record we've put out, I guess we've put out 4 singles already. I'm sorry if yeah, that's right. Plus then with the cover, each song matches the ethos of Fading Nemesis, but each song has a diverse message to it. And there's an underlying sense of wanting freedom and speaking about freedom and speaking about what freedom means. So
And throughout this process, do you feel that each of your connections and bonds with your band and the people you've worked with, that they're much stronger nowadays?
yes, they are. And again, the way I define bond is every person in the team, in the Fading Nemesis family, has the freedom to speak if they feel like they're not meant to be a part of it. So there's no sense of ownership. Like I don't run uh I don't run this as this is what you do, this is what you say, you do what I say you do. So I think at the end of the day, this first year has been really everyone testing out if they're a part of Fading Nemesis or not. And so far it's proving to be unbelievably amazing. And so we're looking
There
forward to
aren't any like there aren't any like victims of the chopping block.
well, here's the thing. If something's not working, both parties have come to the table and go, okay, I don't know if this is working out. And there are no feelings hurt. There's a sense of, I am sensing the same thing. So, but
So it's
anytime
not
it's like,
like, oh well, fuck you, like, and then you just leave.
oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a fiery person,
Yeah, yeah.
but
But you have a heart.
exactly. But I do everything in my power to make peace. And then if somebody's not straightening up, then the queen comes out and says, off with his head.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
But considering everything you've done up to this point with your career thus far, what have you learned about yourself, not only as a musician, but as a person?
I That's a great question, Jake. I think more than anything, I've learned that there is no formula to life. There are paths that people have taken that you can choose to take. You pick and choose. There is no formula. There are some ground level laws, I believe, like the law of gravity. We can't defy it, no matter who we are, no matter how much we say, I am not going to listen to gravity today. You're not just going to float away. There's certain ground rules and ground laws that we have. Those are irrefutable. But there's no formula to life, and every day is a new adventure. And I'm no longer afraid of making it or not making it. There's no such thing. Every day you get up, you do what you're called to do. You do what you think is right and is right, not even what you think is right. It's not an opinion. And you do it, and you do it with your whole heart. And I think I've learned that is when you cut me, if you were to cut me, I would bleed that I feel like I have no boundaries. Not in a bad way, but in a way that anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
The older I'm getting, I feel that that's becoming truer and truer.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone just strives for that unattainable, especially nowadays. They want to be the CEO of whatever a million times over. And like at the end of the day, you just eke out an ordinary existence, whatever that looks like.
Exactly. Exactly.
And lastly, anything you'd like to say to your fans, including me?
I have to say, you are my only reason, my inspiration for doing what I do. If my fans, the audience, the people who are listening uh, weren't there, I would put down music writing, songwriting, putting out albums. You are the reason why I do what I do. So thank you, Jake, and thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Yeah.